What's going on? Welcome to Asian Cosell. And I have a video here of Megan Moon. And the video is why is there so much cheating in Korea? Infidelity on the rise. So let's get into it. Here we go.
Changes when you get here. Punani, purchasing, buying, the bunny. I'm just gonna say something different.
Yeah.
Hello, friends and family. This is Megan Moon, aka Telling Be Saram. And I asked you guys on Instagram what talking videos you wanted me to have, and everybody's like, "We want more crazy mom-in-law stories, relationship stuff, cheating stories, cheating in Korea." Seems like you guys are really into hearing about people's drama. I'm not judging because I am too, as long as it's not my own. Seems like most people ask me to talk about cheating in Korea and why there's so much cheating in Korea. So everyone grab your drink and let's get into why it seems like there's so much cheating in Korea, especially after adultery was decriminalized in 2015. There are so many reasons, from PR, prostitution being rampant. There's a lot of psychological issues, marital issues, and just a rise of sexless marriages that seems to be causing it. We're going to get into all of these issues. But first, let's get started with the law. In 1953, a law was put into place that criminalized adultery. It was punishable by up to 2 years in prison. And it was put in to sort of protect wives, because at that time, especially, most wives were housewives. They were very financially dependent on their husbands. If a man went out and got someone else and sort of left her, like, what is she going to do? But in 2015, it was sort of no longer deemed to be necessary. Like, women are working to a huge rise of, women also cheating as well. But as soon as it was repealed, a lot of condom companies reported that their stocks shot up by like 15, 20%, like immediately. So I guess there was a lot of people who were like, yes, let me go and sow my wild oats, waiting for that law to be repealed. So I wondered, exactly how much cheating there is here. So I looked up the statistics. Now, obviously, statistics can never be 100% accurate, but they do give us a rough idea compared to other countries, etc. Need my notebook. So in Korea, it's been reported that about 53.7% of men over the age of 50 have slept with someone else other than their spouse, whereas only 9.6% of women have. I honestly think that number is a bit higher. I think, especially amongst the older generation, women are supposed to be very demure, very mindful, very modest. So I think they probably underreported a lot, because recently another sort of survey came out, and it was reported that about 40% of women have stepped out and cheated on their partners. It was reported about 62% of men have also cheated on their partners. So again, we can never really fully know. And it's interesting because in Korea, the likelihood of cheating goes up with age, but just comparing Korea to the other countries, statistically, in the US, apparently 23% of men have cheated in marriage, and about 13% of women have cheated in marriage. But on average, Korean men tended to have about 12 different partners that they cheated on their spouse with, whereas women have had about 4 on average different partners that they've cheated with. So why is that? Why are the rates so high? I've been scouring the internet about cheating in Korea from Korean media, news, etc. Obviously, there's no way to 100% know, but these are just the main things that I found. So one of the first reasons why a lot of people are saying there is a lot of cheating is just because of accessibility and ease with which people can cheat, simply because PR, prostitution, is very rampant in Korea. It's something that surprised the hell out of me when I first came. Because when you see Korean dramas, like, everything seems so innocent. Like, if you're watching a drama, the main, male, female leads don't even kiss till like the second to last episode in the whole season. And the fact that PORN is illegal here, there's just a perception that you have of Korea before you get here that sort of changes when you get here. When I first came to Korea in 2012, I had some friends, Steph and Richard, who lived down in Suwon. And so I went to visit them at Suwon, and just from Suwon Station, literally over yonder, you could just see pink lights coming from an alleyway. They were like, "Oh yeah, that's the red light district down there. You want to go see it?" And I was like, "Sure." We just walked down the street, and literally there's just glass, like you can see right from the subway station, alleyway. It's just like a lot of shop storefronts. So it's glass windows, and in each store, there's just a stool, and then a woman sat on the stool. And behind her is just a white wall and then a door. And so some of the store shops, there's no woman there, just a stool. So you're assuming she's in the middle of work. As time goes on, I've run into less and less of those sort of red light districts. I think they're making more of an effort to hide it a little bit, but still, there's so many places you can go. There's the Nore Town, which are like the karaoke places you can.
Yeah. And of course, yeah, like what she said is, yeah, the Norebang, which is the singing place, or what was the funny thing we used to call it back in LA, Koreatown? Roombang, a room salon. You can, yeah, have a girl come and join you and sing, and then whatever happens, happens. So those are one of the things. But yeah, and then another thing, I don't know if because I'm kind of seeing this video blind. She might even talk about, yeah, like the love motels. They're usually yep, covered up, so you can't see if their car is in there. There's like curtains in every parking area, so they can stay anonymous without getting maybe caught, or we won't be like, oh, okay, who is it? Yeah, because I've just walk and there's like love motels everywhere. So yeah. All right, let's continue.
Can go, the room salons, massage parlors, so it's so much easier for people to step out on their marriage. There were some interesting statistics that came out, and that was about 40.5% of men in Korea viewed hiring a PR prostitute was not considered to be cheating, whereas 15% of women thought that it wasn't cheating, if you paid for it. And in the same survey, about 56.1% of men admitted to paying for those type of services in their life. And apparently the average of the people on how many times they've done it was about 6 times. So it was something that they had done multiple times. So one of the reasons why it seems like so many men have partaken in paying for those kind of services is because a lot of business meetings or boss or like work sort of bonding dinners include going to the karaoke places or room salons. And there's apparently pressure from your superiors or your bosses to partake in those activities. But what happens a lot of time is the boss will say, hey, I'll pay for, a girl for you, which one you want. And a lot of men feel a lot of pressure to go along with that, because if you don't, your superiors could sort of harass you into it. And a lot of people fear that later on, like if there's some sort of promotion or anything like that, that they'll be looked over because they didn't participate. But yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about foreign people being so like shocked because they're superiors or even their family members, their uncles, or whoever, just saying, hey, let's go to the room salon, I'll do this, sort of talking about it so casually. I've even heard stories of people having to be the one to like set up these things for their boss to go to like take other clients out or to do whatever they do at like these meetings. And it's especially accessible because there are love motels everywhere on every corner. And love motels are exactly what it sounds like. You can rent out hourly and the fee is usually pretty cheap. But one thing you notice about love motels is when you go into the parking lot, there's always like these sort of curtains that are
Yeah.
blocking the way. So when people get out of the car, you can't see their faces. And that's because people know that if people are going to a love motel, it's typically not because they're going with their wife. As all of these hotels know that their clientele is some cheating ass folks. I mean, there are even elderly women prostitutes who can
Hmm.
solicit elderly people in parks. There is this phenomenon called the bakas ladies. And
Hmm.
bakas is like this Korean energy drink that old people like. And so apparently in the parks, they will ask older gentlemen if they would like to buy some bakas. And then that's sort of how they started being called the bakas ladies. But these older women who sell their bodies are anywhere from 50s all the way up until 80s. Like I think the oldest woman who was caught for selling her body in one of the parks was about 84. And they typically center around an area called Chongnogu. Apparently there used to be a lot of them in one park, maybe around 400, but then the police started cracking down on it a little bit. So it's estimated that maybe there are about 200 elderly women who are selling their bodies in that park. But basically, if you are older men in Korea, people know, where they can go to easily access that. And it's very cheap too. Like, the bakas ladies, their average fee is about 20 to 30,000 won, which is about like 18 to 27 USD. So not very expensive at all. There's even actually a movie called The Bakas Lady. And apparently it's a really good movie. It has a really good famous Korean actress in it. But it's just the story of a Bakas lady, how she got into the situation of having to sell her body in the park. And it also highlights the sad reality of elderly poverty in Korea, which I think is a totally another issue to go over for another day. I say all that to say it's quite accessible for
Yeah, yeah, the part of the elderly, it's really sad because if you guys didn't know this, you know, there was no like what we have in America, Social Security, where that's supposed to pay us out. Well, Korea didn't have a it's called a pension. They didn't have a pension till 1988. So sometimes the elderly these days, yeah, they're kind of stuck. Maybe they get a subsidy of maybe a couple hundred US dollars, 300 to 400,000 Korean won. And yeah, and this is what the Bakas ladies have to do to survive. It's basically survive, not doing this just because, oh, it's a lot of money. No, it's not like OnlyFans. It's like, survival. So yeah, but let's continue.
men who want to cheat literally everywhere. So outside of accessibility, it seems like one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people turn to cheating is just the rise of sexless marriages. There's so much content these days, and it's one of the hot issues that a lot of psychologists and divorce lawyers and anybody who's just studying psychology or knows about it are talking about sexless marriages nowadays. It even has a slang term in Korean. They call it Sexless bubu. So sexless is just sexless
Yeah.
with a Korean accent. And then bubu means married couple. It always makes me giggle because boo doo-doo-doo in English. And then also, as a millennial that I am,
Yeah.
when I was little, I watched Yogi Bear. Yogi Bear's sidekick's name is Boo Boo, and he's
Yeah.
always like, "Hey, Boo Boo." So
Yep.
anytime I say Boo Boo, it makes me giggle. The word boo boo means married couple. But
Same thing.
sexless boo boo, it started like that and then it actually got shortened to lis boo boo. But apparently the rates of sexless marriages are a bit higher in Korea than they are in other parts of the world, about 10% higher. So I was watching a lot of videos about lis boo boo and like what it is, but it seems like the main root of the issue is just really that lack of genuine connection and emotional connection in the marriages. It seems like a lot of people are lacking intimacy and the ability to really talk and share their emotions and talk about deep-seated issues that they're having. So I mentioned this in the video when I was talking about why marriage in Korea is hard. I mentioned how the previous generation didn't really allow their kids to speak up about things that made them uncomfortable, or they didn't really allow an environment for their kids to confide in them the things that were bothering them. And whenever they did, the parents would sort of get angry. So a lot of people learned to not really share their emotions or to really share like how they feel. And so it seems like over time, a lot of couples here drift so far apart, but still don't really know how to go about repairing the relationship to really get to like what the issues that they have are. And it feels like a lot of people here think that if they speak up about issues, then the person won't like them and then the relationship will crumble. But I think they don't really realize that not talking about issues is what makes the relationship crumble. Like relationships fail because you're just sort of ignoring and sweeping all the issues under the rug instead of addressing and taking care of them. Just in general, overall, it doesn't seem like people really speak positively about marriage. People sort of have this attitude, well, there it is, you're married, you don't have a good relationship. It's normal. It seems like people just expect for marriages to not have good relationships, and people don't seem to have like those role models of couples that they aspire to be like, who have good communication, who respect and understand one another, etc. That's one reason why some people in the younger generation are not really excited about marriage and not really wanting to do it. And I think because of the example from the previous generation, a lot of people don't even know that you can really put in that effort and work on a marriage and repair the relationship to sort of keep it alive. And it's so sad because a lot of people don't want to get divorced because of the stigma of divorce, although that's gone away and the divorce rates are skyrocketing. But there are more people who are learning about couples therapy and who are opting to do that to repair their relationship and get back on the same page. But it seems like a lot of people just think, well, this is life. This is how we live. I can't get a divorce, so what am I going to do? Find someone outside of this relationship that makes me feel happy. But there are some specific things I think that happen in Korean society that don't help couples to actually connect in the way that they need to. And I think the first one is just working hours. Like if you are working all day every day and you don't have time to sit down and connect. So many people are just so tired, like after 12 hours of working.
Yeah, speaking of working, I've seen, like at coffee shops, like couples, they're not even like talking. They're just, and this is like a young couple because both of them had usually have jobs, assuming, and they're just like passed out, sleeping, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah, and late at night, like, oh, no, it's not completely late. Maybe it is 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They're just like, both of them on each other's shoulder, just passed out. So, yeah, there's just so much craziness of working. And yeah, there's not time to like get together and connect, or this is where, the ultimatum is like, no, you can't play sports. I need the whole day with you on Saturday. And I'm just like, wow, I ain't, I ain't gonna live that life. F that. Well, you need to give me all of Saturday. No, we can meet later after the game. Oh,
When the weekend comes, I just kind of want to being physically intimate with your partner is like the last thing on your mind. So a lot of people only really get to spend time together on the weekend. So there's a word for that in Korea. It's called 주말 부부. Just means 주말 means weekend,
and
부부, means married couple. So weekend couple. They only see each other on weekends. So a lot of wives feel emotionally neglected from their husbands. So sometimes they could seek some sort of emotional support or connection outside of their relationship. So, one of the biggest reasons that I've been hearing about these days as to why marriages eventually go down that road of becoming sexless is just because the qualities that people are looking for to get married in the first place don't allow for the deepening of the relationship. They tend to be very superficial. There's words that people say nowadays, like specs, they call it, as opposed to the quality of the relationship. Like, are they healed? How do they handle conflict? People tend to focus more on the superficial things here and how the person looks on paper when they get married. And apparently, that's also fueled by the parents. In Korea, you have to have your parents' permission to get married. And a lot of the older generation born right after the Korean War is very gung ho that everybody needs to be a doctor or a lawyer or some sort of professional, a judge, something like that. But I've heard of so many cases of a woman has a man that she really likes, feels connected to. Maybe they have a good quality relationship, but the specifications don't match up to what her parents want. Instead of having this kind of person, I just want to be able to say that my husband is a dentist, or the parents just want to be able to say my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law is a lawyer, is a whatever. It seems like people who marry for those sort of superficial reasons tend to not really end up being happy at all. And so those relationships tend to lead to the most cheating. And just skipping out of married people, talking about people who are unmarried, just like boyfriend and girlfriend status, one reason that I heard why there could be a lot of cheating is because a lot of people feel pressure to be in relationships in Korea. Not so much anymore. I feel like that part of it is changing a little bit, but a lot of people just don't want to be alone. And a lot of restaurants, if you go to in Korea, you can't just go as one person. Like the minimum purchase that you get is for 2 to 3 people, and it's one big dish and like a selection of side dishes that go along with it. So a lot of people don't want to just be alone. So sometimes they hold on to relationships that maybe aren't the best for them, where they don't match until they find someone else. A lot of psychologists have been talking about nowadays as
Yep, and okay, and you talk about the restaurant culture. Yeah, now there's restaurants that are solo restaurants, where you could eat by yourself, like because mostly the meat places they want two people, but they have like some of these restaurants now have like a solo place where you sit down, just like in Japan and now Korea. Yep, give me the meat, give me the special meat, and then you eat by yourself. So that's becoming a little bit of a rise right now. So yeah, I've seen a little bit more of that. So let's continue.
to what keeps the couples from actually forming the bond that they need to have a long continuous happy marriage. Is just that they don't take the first 3 years to really bond with one another, and apparently that's something that's very important, almost like it is for when you first have a new baby. They say the first 3 years is the most important time for building that bond and that secure attachment with the parents. So that's why they say if you're going to send your kid to daycare, it's better to do so after 3 years of life. Apparently in a marriage, the first 3 years are very important too. the couple needs to take time to just decide how they're going to live, to match each other, to change certain habits that they need to change, to they learn how to talk to each other, they learn the things that make each other tick. Like it's the real one psychologist called it the golden time. And of course, it doesn't mean you don't talk to anyone, only two of you hang out together, but that's the time where you need to sort of block and set up boundaries around family influences. Emotionally separate from your parents and sort of get onto your partner. So you guys have a nice base foundation of marriage. You understand one another. You've created your own family environment. And then you start allowing the influences from outside. But apparently, in Korea after marriage, especially because mom-in-laws tend to be very enmeshed with their children, is they don't tend to allow that couple to have that time to be by themselves. And there's this sort of guilt that Korean people feel for just being happy with their partner and figuring out things and not including their parents in their married life. There's sort of this pressure to allow everyone to be sort of enmeshed together, and that sort of keeps a wedge between the spouses from actually forming the emotional bond that they need. And it seems like a lot of people are sort of guilted into not doing so and to continue to focus on their parents even after marriage. There's this other concept in Korea that I've heard psychologists talk about, and that's that there are different types of marriage. One of the type of marriage is 부모 중심, which means parent-centered marriage. The point of your marriage is to make your parents happy. You include the parents in your marriage. Then the next type is called 자녀 중심. 자녀 is kid, focused on the kids. And that's where you two relationship is not really there. You're just fully focused on the kids. And the point of your relationship is the kids. Now that one's not as bad as the parent-centered one, but still your relationship and being on good terms in your relationship has to come before your identity as parents in order to be healthy, because then you can actually take better care of the children that way. Obviously, for the first 3 years of a child's life, it can't be helped. So you kind of have to be more child-centered in the first 3 years, but then after that, you have to kind of learn how to get back into being your married couple self. So a lot of people, the sole reason why they are married is just the kids. So everything is just poured into, all the resources are poured onto the kids. And that sounds great in theory, but kids tend to feel very smothered, and it really hinders them from being able to grow up and live their own lives. And they sort of start to feel responsible for the parents' happiness because the parents' happiness depends on the kids. In those type of marriages, there's no sort of excitement between the couples. There's no real emotional connection, excitement. And so it's so much easier to step out in a case like that. When your marriage is just down to only roles and duty. Okay, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I do X, Y, and Z, and that's it. It's very easy to be swept up if you meet someone else. There was a really interesting video that I watched on Chishik Inside. It's like one of my favorite Korean YouTube channels, where lots of psychologists and lawyers and or professionals in whatever their fields are come on to like have discussions about stuff. But recently in one of the discussions that they had, one of my favorite psychologists, he mentioned the fact that a lot of Korean marriages just tend to lack passion or feeling or anything because they're just based on the roles and the duty. So when you don't really have any excitement or passion or a good sex life in your marriage, and then you meet someone who sort of makes you feel excited, it's really hard to turn that away.
Yeah, and that's a common thing for most like women. They're like, "Yep, I'm not happy in this marriage." And then, some guy comes, "Oh yeah, he's exciting. Oh, he makes me wonder. Oh, he makes me I get the tingles. Oh, yeah." So but that's like, worldwide, and of course, for Koreans, they the most of them have to work about, even if the president I think President Moon said cut the hours from like 60 to like 58 and then 42. This still, that doesn't apply for like the big corporations like Samsung, LG, and all these other places. They have to work immense hours. Now if you're in a government position, you might just work till 6, or some of the companies now shut the internet and the computer down and you have to go home, so because you're done at 6. So yeah, but like these other places, no, they still have lots of hours. So yeah. All right, let's finish off.
You're in the thrill of like meeting someone you're attracted to. You get a big rush of dopamine to your brain. It makes you feel alive. When you think about it in general, like so many people just work so hard and they have to fulfill all of these societal expectations. A lot of people don't really have any joy or happiness in their life. A lot of people are depressed. So you meet someone who gives you a rush of dopamine. You feel like the new love feeling. it increases your confidence. So a lot more people have a hard time not acting on those impulses. And that's also one of the other reasons why after 50, the rates of cheating increase so much. Because in Korea, a lot of people conform to societal norms. They've lived their whole life just doing what their parents want for them. They studied what their parents wanted them to study in school. They got the job their parents wanted them to study in school. They married the person their parents wanted them to marry. They sort of start feeling like, well, what decisions have I made for myself? Like, what do I even want to do? Like, who am I? And when you couple that with the fact that Korea is a very hierarchical society, a lot of people feel like they don't get the respect that they want or deserve. So when the midlife crisis that usually happens, it's been reported that in Korea, they feel it even more. And a lot of people aren't really taught how to take care of themselves mentally and emotionally. They're taught you're a good person if you set aside everything you want and just dive into helping and doing things for other people. So for a lot of people, this is like a way for them to finally do something that they want. It seems like it's sort of a distraction from reality for some people, and it sort of helps some people regain their confidence and just sort of feel loved and supported again. I'm not condoning it. I don't want you to think that I'm saying that. It's a good and positive thing that they are doing that. I'm just telling you the reasons why I've heard. It's sort of similar for women after 50 as well, especially in the previous generation. The women just put their whole life into taking care of their kids. And so when their kids are finally grown and gone out of the house, especially if their kids are setting up boundaries, the moms are like, well, what do I do? Like, my identity was just based on being a mom my whole life. Like, I don't know. I got to refine my hobbies and stuff like that. That's why in Korea, a lot of older people tend to get depressed because they don't know how to find themselves again. But it does seem like nowadays people are more open to getting therapy. So I hear a lot more stories of couples finally going to couples therapy and then figuring out how to live with each other again. So hopefully the numbers will continue to increase. I think this current generation of people are a lot more open to getting therapy and stuff like that, and getting information and resources on how to have and sort of deepen their relationships and overcoming any trauma that they have. So I think this generation will be better, and then the next generation will be even better. And I think everything will just continue to get better. But anyway, there is a lot of things that we couldn't even really begin to cover in this video.
Okay, so yep, that's pretty much Megan Moons. But yeah, yeah. Well, of course, cheating, it's everywhere. And of course, yeah, the percentages are a little skewed for women because in the US, yeah, I'm starting to hear in the US like a lot of the ladies are just cheating as much as the men or even less for the men and more for the women. And then here in Korea, you saw the survey, like the recent survey, like 40%. I think it's even more because, but it could be even just anecdotal evidence. But yeah, I could see like more starting to step out on their husband. So it's remaining to see. But there's, yeah, the like you said, the condom companies had a 15% rise in 2015. The hotels here, I could probably like go out my door and run into a love motel, and yep, I could probably like if I open the window, I could probably see a love motel from here, because they're everywhere. They're all over South Korea, like she said. So I can verify that. Like just walk, like if I go out and walk, I'll run into like 5 love motels right there, and it's like, yeah, very secretive. So it is how it's designed here. All right. So if any of you enjoyed any of this content, please give me the HKO special. Help the king out. Hit the like, subscribe, and comment. And wherever you are, stay safe. And I'll see you in my next video.